it's all the one essence appearing as everything. The one essence that is an innate intelligence energy. You are that pure awareness expressing, patterning, shaping, forming as everything. I'm not speaking to anybody. I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm speaking to that I am, that sense of presence, which expresses through the mind as that thought I am. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. Now, the life is that life essence that's patterning, shaping, forming this body. But instead of seeing it as that, we've taken it ourselves to be the word. I am the body, I am the mind. But you know you're not. Innately you know you're not the body or the mind, because you say my body. You say my house, my car, my coat. You know you're not the house, the car or the coat. Not the body either. The same with the mind, you say my mind. But it's the same intelligence that's rolling the earth around the sun, causing the seasons to come and go, the tides to come in and out. It's breathing you, it's beating your heart, it's growing your finger and fingernails, it's digesting your food. In all the shapes and forms and patterns it appears in is that one intelligence energy, the one essence, appearing as everything. And it's not two. It can never be two. It's what they call the still small voice. But it's that innate intelligence that resonates and brings up what is necessary. It comes out spontaneously, naturally. And there's a resonation with that in these pattern shapes of form. And that resonation is a recognising, a cognising of that emptiness. You call it the inner self, if you like, but it is the only self. It's the pure, absolute awareness which is patterning into everything. I can't teach you anything. I can't tell you anything. All I can do is point toward and ask you to look to where I'm pointing to.
And that innate knowing about existence,
yeah.
That's the inner guru, inner teacher, knowing about existence. And nobody can say they don't know they exist. They will have to be there to say that anyway. So that knowing is always there. The problem with that knowing is that seeking assumes that there is something else to know, or there is something to understand in the ordinary way, like understanding quantum mechanics or understanding another person. But that knowing of something or the other, or knowing an object something of the other, is not the knowing per se. Like if we are that Satchitananda, if we are that being knowing and preferring to be, then content of the knowing is secondary. Intelligence straight away points out that there is something, and he also says it quite often, something that's leading you, something that's beating your heart, that breathing the body. That intelligence is undeniable. Like you can't deny your being, you know you aren't unaware. You also can't deny that brilliance, that intelligence that is present and is expressing. It's now only what we put on top of it that is a problem. So really, it is innate, it is already here. It's not something that I have to find or achieve. Listening to any outside directions may initially bring a relief, but the ultimate answer can only come from that direct, immediate, innate knowing.
You're listening to the Nonduality podcast. This is Nick Hyam from nisargayoga.com. In this episode, I'm joined by cat and sailor Bob Adamson. In 1976, Bob spent 12 months with Nisargadatta Maharaj in Mumbai, then Bombay, India. And since this time, thousands of seekers from all over the world have visited Bob in Melbourne, Australia for both individual and group meetings. Kat, now Bob's wife, started attending meetings in 2013. 2 years later, it became clear to Kat that she wasn't limited to any image, that she was fundamentally existence, consciousness, love, Sat Chit Ananda. Bob, in a recent talk, you said it's the message that's important, not the messenger who carries it. It's the message that is the reality. Leave the spontaneous knowing as it is and let it express. It is the inner teacher. Intuition means inner tuition. That is what guides you.
Yes.
It reminded me of something Nisargadatta said. Your own self is the ultimate teacher, the Sadguru. The outer teacher, the Guru, is merely a milestone. It is only your inner teacher that will walk with you to the goal, for he is the goal. Since he is you and is with you, the difficulty cannot be serious. Look within and you will find him. That which sees all, and the nothing too, is the inner teacher. He alone is. All else only appears to be. He is your own self, your hope and your assurance of freedom. Find him and cling to him, and you will be saved and safe.
Yes. I can't teach you anything. I can't tell you anything. All I can do is point toward and ask you to look to where I'm pointing to. Christ says, I am the way, I am the truth and the life. People thought he was talking about himself. He wasn't. He was talking about that sense of presence, which is innately we know. That's the way. That's the truth. So stay with the I amness, that sense of presence. See where it takes you. And when it resonates, it leads you to other things because it's resonating with the life itself. So why can't I teach you or tell you? Because you are no thing. The same as I is no thing. It's the pattern, shapes and forms which are appearing as the one essence, the one self, all appearing on the basic screen of space. Now you can't find a centre to space. You can't find a circumference to it. No boundaries, no centre. You can't give it any, say what it is or see it even. And everything, there's nothing you can postulate or think of that could be outside of space. What would it be in? It have to be in space. So when they call it space-like awareness, it's the awareness itself, which you can't say what awareness is. And it's the one self that's patterning, shaping, forming as everything. Everything is the content of space. Space is no thing. So you and I and everything else are things. Can something come from no thing? It can't. So it's all absolute. Now you can't add anything to the absolute. You can't take anything away from it. But it needs patterns to express itself through. So it forms all these pattern shapes and forms, which they call a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomenal is that which appears to be. So all these things are appearing to be so, but not the real. So the so-called person is not the reality, it's just a pattern through which everything expresses through. So that one self, you call it the inner self, if you like, but it is the only self. It's the pure, absolute awareness which is patterning into everything. So you and I are forms of that emptiness. The one essence that is an innate intelligence energy. We don't use the term God because we can get confused with that term, because all the traditions have got this separate God. You are that pure awareness expressing, patterning, shaping, forming as everything. And the everything is the no thing, because space is no thing. You can't give it any shape or form or any boundaries to it. And the content of space, you can't postulate or think of anything that can be outside of space. So it's a space like awareness. And they express it as Satchitananda Nama Rupa in Advaita. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, Ananda is loving to be. Nama Rupa, the name and form, is Maya. Now, you can't say you're not existing right now, can you? You're not unconscious, and you're not unaware, so you're conscious, and you're happy to be. So you're already that. That is all there is. And we know that, because that's the great mantra. I am that. And everything is that. That's the tree, that's the flower, that's the space, that's you, that's me. It's all that which we've discriminated with words. How many words were you born with?
None.
You weren't born with any words. And you didn't learn words till you were about two and a half years old. So this thing we call mind, there's no such thing as mind as far as that's concerned. This thing we call mind didn't appear till we learned words. So
True.
all the mind is words, concepts, ideas. And it tells you that in the Bible. In the beginning it was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. That's all God is the Word. All things were made by Him, and there was nothing made that was made without the Word. Isn't that so? We put words on everything. But it's all no thing, a phenomenal manifestation, and the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. It's all appearing to be so. So who can tell you anything or know anything about it at all? So it's all the one essence appearing as everything. I'm not speaking to anybody. I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm speaking to that I am, that sense of presence, which expresses through the mind as that thought I am. Now that thought, that's all that I am. When the Sagata says stay with the I amness, people think we've got to repeat I am, but he's not meaning that at all. The I am is the sense of presence, the knowing that you are. If somebody asks you who you are, you'll say, I am Bill or John or Harry, whatever your name might be. Instead of saying, I am the absolute. And you can't go around saying I am the absolute because people will put you in a funny farm for a while. But you can't add anything to the absolute. You can't take anything away from it. So it has to form all these different patterns, shapes and forms to express through it. And it's still the one essence appearing as everything. And you and I and everything else is already that. And when we talk about the inner voice, inner tuition, that's another statement. And they point that out in the Bible. Thou shalt hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it, whether you turn to the left, turn to the right. It's what they call the still small voice. And we think we've got to hear it, but it's that innate intelligence that resonates and brings up what is necessary. It comes out spontaneously, naturally. And there's a resonation with that in these pattern shapes of form. And that resonation is a recognising, a cognising of that emptiness. And the Buddha pointed out that and called it emptiness as form. It's called it cognising emptiness. We think we cognise emptiness, but we don't. It's the emptiness that's suffused with that intelligence that does the cognising. So it's the cognising emptiness. He made the statement that emptiness is form. So all these forms, including you and me, are empty. And the form can be nothing other than the emptiness, because he walked around and told you that. So we are these empty forms. That cognising emptiness, which I want for a better term, called intelligence energy. I don't use the term God. Intelligence is not your intellect, but it's the same intelligence that's rolling the earth around the sun, causing the seasons to come and go, the tides to come in and out. It's breathing you, it's beating your heart, it's growing your finger and fingernails, It's digesting your food. In all the shapes and forms and patterns it appears in is that one intelligence energy, the one essence, appearing as everything. And it's not two. It can never be two. So that what needs to be in that recognising emptiness, that's what needs to be recognised. And I tell you another statement in the Bible, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. How would you renew your mind? Wouldn't it be just remind yourself that you're not the person, you're not the body-mind, you are the absolute. When it comes up, instead of detaching from whatever thing is coming up, and recognise your true nature, that you are that spontaneous, natural, ever-fresh presence awareness or intelligence energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate the way Bob calls it an intelligence, because that is so much fresher of a word than a self, which we may be associating with some sort of an inner self or outer self or absolute self. Intelligence straight away points out that there is something, and he also says it quite often, something that's leading you, something that's beating your heart, that breathing the body. That intelligence is undeniable.
Absolutely.
Like you can't deny your being, you aren't unaware. You also can't deny that brilliance, that intelligence that is present and is expressing. It's now only what we put on top of it that is a problem. So really, it is innate, it is already here. It's not something that I have to find or achieve.
To explain intelligence energy, look at the body, how it's pattern shaped and formed, the organs, the brain, the heart, all that implies it's suffused with an innate intelligence to form it like that, and all the other manifestations suffused with that intelligence. And intelligence is knowing. It's being, knowing, loving to be. That's the Sat Chit Ananda again. It's being and knowing. And energy is an activity. So it's the activity of knowing. And every one of us is knowing right now. So we are that intelligence energy. So thinking is the actuality, just the same as seeing. The thought I see comes up, but can the thought I see it? Can't. And your eye's not telling you I see. Seeing is happening and it's translated by the thought. So that's the feeling, the hearing, the tasting, the touching, the ing on it, something that's happening in this immediacy, presently. The I see or I think is the conceptual image, and that gets we're locked into that belief we are the separate entity, the person. Where does that word person come from? It comes from persona, the Latin mask. We've got a conceptual image on ourselves. We take that image to be real. And the Sagata tells you nothing can trouble you excepting your own imagination. Break that word imagination down to image in, imagine. And that's what we're doing, we're making these conceptual images and taking them to be real. And we're bound up in the images. But look in the mirror, what do you see? You see a reflection or an image in the mirror. You can't say it's not there. Try and grab it. You can't say it is there. So it's only appearance, like all this manifestations, it's appearance only. It's not real.
Mm.
What is also beautiful about that innate, that inherently present, always and ever, and undeniably so, is the fact that when we were born, as Bob mentioned, prior to any language, prior to any words, that natural state was already present. The natural state in which the baby comes into the world and is just seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling is happening before we learn the language and learn to translate everything into concepts and relate into that main concept of I. So if that sense of presence, that innate knowing, that intelligence has been there as a baby, it hasn't been lost, it has just been buried under a lot of seeking, and that's the problem with seeking, because seeking with the mind implies that there is so-called intellectual understanding, and Bob has this beautiful way of explaining the difference between the intelligence and the intellect.
Intelligence is knowing.
Yeah.
And knowing is an activity. Now, activities a movement of energy. And as I say, we didn't learn words till we were about two and a half. So for the first couple of years of your life, you were living without the word. So you are prior to the mind. The mind wasn't functioning. The little baby's seeing, hearing, but he's not, you can't label it, it's just natural, spontaneous functioning. Spontaneously ever present. And learn words. And every word we've ever spoken or ever liked to speak has been picked up along the way. And the word is not the thing. You can't drink the word water. You won't wash in it or drown yourself. The word fire doesn't burn you, or you can't cook with it. So what's this word I or me? It's just another conceptual image that we focus on when we learnt the words and haven't investigated, and the saying in the scriptures also is the false cannot stand up to the investigation. And we haven't. We've taken it on board and we've learnt all these words and keep learning more words as we go along. And we've got a dictionary full of words. We continue to pick them up, and none of them are real. But you are prior to the word. For that first couple of years of your life, you were prior to the thought, prior to the mind. So you're before the word. Shakespeare tells you there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So thinking is a vibration, a movement of energy, just the same. And energy vibrates in the pairs of opposites. It's either past, future, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating. All the opposites. What we are the life itself. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. Now, the life is that life essence that's patterning, shaping, forming this body. But instead of seeing it as that, we've taken ourselves to be the word. I am the body, I am the mind. But you know you're not. Innately you know you're not the body or the mind, because you say my body. You say my house, my car, my coat. You know you're not the house, the car or the coat.
Yeah.
Not the body either. The same with the mind. You say my mind. And you're not the mind. What's the body made up of? Investigate. You'll see the body's made up of elements. Air, earth, fire, water, space. Just like the elements around you. Separate yourself from those elements if you can. Take the water out of your body. You would not last too long. Take the fire, the body temperature. Try and get out of space if you can. Get away. So you're not separate. And this is, have a look at this mind. So all those subatomic particles, the elements, can be broken down to subatomic particles into pure energy. And that's all it is, a vibrating pattern of energy. And that's what, what's his name? Einstein tells you. It's all energy. I do. Like have a look at this thing called mind. What's mind? Word. What's word? Sound. What's sound? Vibration. Vibration's a movement of energy. So it's still only the energy appearing in body-mind. But that's the life essence that's forming it and expressing through it. Just the same. Now, take the life out of that body, you've got a corpse. Now, before it breaks down, that organs still got the eyes in it, the ears, the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the brain, all the organs are there, but they're not a bit of good to it without that life essence. And the same as a computer. You've got a computer there with that power in it. Without the power turned on, what good is it? Not a bit of good. Without the life in that body, what is it? It's not a bit of good either, just like the computer. So you are the life. And Christ says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. He's not talking about himself, he's talking about that sense of presence which translates through.
I am.
Yeah, the I am.
I am is the truth.
Mm.
And that innate knowing about existence,
Yeah.
that's the inner guru, inner teacher, knowing about existence. And nobody can say they don't know they exist. They will have to be there to say that anyway. So that knowing is always there. The problem with that knowing is that seeking assumes that there is something else to know, or there is something to understand in the ordinary way, like understanding quantum mechanics or understanding another person. But that knowing of something or the other, or knowing an object something of the other, is not the knowing per se. Like if we are that Satchitananda, if we are that being knowing and preferring to be, then content of the knowing is secondary. I can say, oh, I don't understand Chinese, or I don't know about life in a droplet of water, so I need to seek and need to find and I need to know it. But that is irrelevant. Anything that can be learned can be forgotten. Anything that can be read or understood through the books or other people's talks can be lost in a moment of brain shock. It's not worth it. Because if it is not absolute, meaning all-pervading, always and ever, just like the being and knowing, but not knowing of something, not the consciousness per se, but the awareness, the capacity for knowing, which is as close as you can get to self-definition. But even that is already too much to be said, because how can knowing define itself? Not only it can't know, the capacity of knowing cannot be known by the capacity of knowing, but it wouldn't even care.
No. And you can't identify with that which is absolute because it's absolute. You can only identify with a pseudo entity that is relative and narrow and small in relationship with other subjects, other objects. You can identify with that. But what is that? That's just an idea. So you can identify with an idea.
Yeah.
And even that's not a problem, because what is an idea? As you said, thinking is just a movement of energy. It's the same energy appearing that way.
And Sakadeva says there's only life. There's nobody that lives a life. Life lives on life, and out of life more life comes. So where did you come from? And you realise you come from the life of your parents. And where did they come from? The life of their parents. Now that intelligence energy, that life that's animating and expressing it as the father, enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form. That sperm was suffused with intelligence energy. It knew what to do. The same in your mother. It enabled life essence in your mother, another microscopic particle called an egg or an ovum to form. That was suffused with intelligence. And the sperm swam to the ovum and penetrated it. And that intelligence energy in the two of them doubled that cell, redoubled it, formed the little embryo and little fetus, what you are today. What were you doing about it then? Nothing. That life, inner life, was living you then and growing you, and doing it, which has done so ever since, causing the thinking, the feeling and the emotion. That inner life, if you like to call it that, is living you and doing everything. So it grows of itself. Once it start resonating with it and looking, people that get on this path are looking a little bit further than what the religions and the sins and all the rest of it. They put all the bad conditions they put on in religion, stopping us from seeing what we are this absolute, because we think we've got to become something. But we are pure being. It's being, knowing and loving to be. We call ourselves human beings. Got that term God, you call God the Supreme Being. Take away the label Supreme, take away the label human and try and tell me you're not being right now. You can't. You can't negate that beingness. And that's what you are. And that beingness is not unaware, it's aware. Awareness of being is bliss.
Before I even consider who I am, what I am, when I am, how I am, why I am, I know that I am. And anything else is secondary. So if I am anything, I'm that knowing that I am.
Exactly.
And even that, we have to be really subtle here and nuanced, because even that knowing that I am isn't primary, really. It points to the primary, and that which is primary is indescribable. You can't capture it at all in any way.
Yes.
So that I amness is the primary pointer, the primary teacher, the true guru.
And it is that. Everything is that. We innately we know it. That's the chair, that's the carpet, that's the tree, that's the flower. It's all that which we discriminate with the word.
I like to actually see it as the way, because it is a movement, it is a flow. The I am is already a flow of that electricity that leads that lamp. So it means it is already a light. I am, it is already a light. But the capacity for that expression as the I am, it neither exists nor it doesn't. You can't say that this is an electricity, because it only is when it starts flowing. But when it doesn't flow, it is only a potentiality for something. So that's why it can't be experienced, it can't be described. It is even no point to go there and speculate about it. Because, ultimately, this is what a lot of different schools of thought is arguing about. Bob and I were attacked by someone who was into Dzogchen. Oh, you are sitting on I am, you don't understand, there is something prior to I am, and we do.
Well, how can you say? I mean, it's adequate enough to say, I am that. What that is can't be said, but if you're going to say anything, and even this is not required, but if you're going to say anything about yourself, I am that.
Yes. But, as I say, that is, and is this is not was, or not will be. It's is this immediacy right now. Present. Everything is that, and that is what it is. Yeah.
And it's unavoidable, it's undeniable. It's not something that I can attain. I know that I am that, because I am. That I am affirms that I am. It is innate and it is primal, and it's this fact that I am switched on. I am here, I am present, I am now.
Yeah.
That's all there is to say, and that's all there is to be. And then I can add anything to that knowing that I am. So that I am is a kind of a capacity it holds, and it gives birth to all these appearances. But all these appearances, even though they seem secondary, they are actually only the primary. So there's no secondary and primary, there's no inner and outer. There's only what I am.
Yes, that's true.
I like actually what you said a couple of minutes ago, maybe more than that, that to identify as something, you have to disidentify as something else. So there has to be a separation. I am this, but not that. And once the being is realized as all-encompassing, there is no opposite to that. The identification as such makes no sense anymore, because to identify as something or not the other, there has to be someone to identify. So the question of identification completely goes away. There's no one who even wants to know or identify as anything specific or even as anything general. But of course, and I remember that for myself some 7-8 years ago when I was a seeker, and I had a lot of glimpses and a lot of moments of knowing. And those moments were somehow a taste of the eternity, that the moment of being just empty and amazed and nothing was wrong. And then the thoughts came back rushing and defining anything and everything and defining myself. And then the seeking, the push to somehow liberate myself from that cage of concepts and thoughts was so, that was all there was. That was just basic movement of life. So now when I see people finding themselves in that predicament and trying to understand and trying to learn it and trying to get it from someone, you tell me, you give me, you tell me what to do, I'll do anything.
Yeah.
Then it is a situation which kind of begs for just stop, just pause, stop trying. Trying is the movement away. Becoming is the movement away from being. And it's easy to say now when it's obvious, but when you are in the pits of despair and completely identified as that suffering poor little me, that's not helpful. And that's why we say that listening to any outside directions may initially bring a relief, but the ultimate answer can only come from that direct, immediate, innate knowing.
I say we're not born with any words, and when the word comes upon us, we take it to be real, and it's not real at all. It's only appearance.
I always like it, Bob, when you say that belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason.
Yes.
And when you investigate what you have accepted, the beliefs you have taken on, you find that they don't hold any water. They are empty. That is to say that if I believe this is a chair, in truth, that belief is empty. So the chair is empty.
Yeah, it can't stand on its own. It's completely interconnected with the rest of the manifestation.
Yeah. Was a tree at one time. Just a wooden chair. Or something else was what. Yeah. When a little child learns words at about 2.5, the capacity of reasoning comes upon him, and he learns words like I or me, and takes himself to believe that, doesn't question it any further.
And you can even see how that I assumption, when you go about your life, it is beautiful and very convenient way to communicate and to relate. You know, when I say I go to the shops, obviously the mind doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't have legs, but the body does. So I'm the body, I'm going to the shops, and that's perfectly fine statement to communicate with other bodies, to actually navigate around the life. But when I say I am angry, well, body doesn't get angry. So now the I is something different. And the I, in every statement, there is an assumption that there is a consistent entity within which owns the body, owns the mind, and which has some sort of a solidity, but it doesn't. And this is the belief that is, instead of investigating every single appearance, which we can do, but that's one lifetime, maybe not enough, the investigating the projector, just turning that power of discrimination and looking into if there is any solid substantial entity called I.
Exactly.
Or it is something fluid and something completely unreliable and completely redundant in a way you perceive and explain the world. Although it's very convenient in communication and the whole language is just a beautiful miracle, and the way the human brain and its capacities to create stories and connect through them, it is absolutely wonderful. But when you know it for what it is, when you know it for what it is.
It's only truly seen as wonderful when you know it for what it is, exactly. When you're immersed in it and you're identified with it, it's not wonderful. It feels very contracted. It feels very dense and heavy. Identity is I-density.
That's right.
So identity means the fact of being who or what one is. And density means the degree of compactness of a substance. So the true substance, the only substance, which is not a material substance, the only substance is that true I. And so that I becomes dense, it becomes contracted. So that's how it feels, but it's not actually what's going on there. That true I can't be contracted, it can't be compacted, it can't be narrowed in any way, it can't be distorted. It just seems that way. That's what we're working with. We just only need to dispel that belief that I am limited.
Exactly, yeah.
I love that. This is brilliant. Brilliant way of presenting it. The density, when you think of that contraction and you think of the beliefs that this contraction is ready to kill for or die for or attack someone or defend, that really feels, having the identity or identity really does feel like incredible contraction. That fluidity, that relaxed natural state is basically just like pushed into a ball of pain, really, because anything that's limited is, if you limit yourself, even if you have some grandiose self-image of being wonderful and whatever, is still less than the absolute that you truly are. So it still hurts, even if you are superior to others. Somewhere on the bottom of your heart, that hurts too, because those others are you.
The little child, when he learns the word, the capacity of reasoning develops him. Then that capacity of reasoning, he's learnt the words, and he learns words like I. And he looks out there and that's not I. So that's when the sense of separation comes on. That's not I, so he feels separate. With separation comes insecurity and vulnerability. From that time onward, we're insecure and vulnerable, and then that's when the search really starts. We try to become secure and whole when we were never separated at all. And so we get locked into all these concepts, And something comes up, and I like it. How do you know? Well, I've had this before and it's good. We don't want the good things to go. So not realising that everything is transient, it's only spontaneous, transient, constantly changing. It's not going to last, it's going to change. We don't want it to go, so what do? We resist it. And resistance is conflict. We're in conflict with the word now. Conflict makes you fearful, angry, stressed, guilty, whatever. So something comes up that I don't like. The things I like, want to keep there, are transient. They're going to change whether we want them to or not. Something comes up that I don't like. So what do? I resist that from going. I shouldn't be thinking that thought. And again conflict, and again the disease, uneasiness, the fear, the anger and all the rest comes. All our psychological suffering comes up from this constant resistance that's going on. And it's only me that can be fearful, only me that can be anxious, me be unhappy, me depressed. Me is the cause of all my psychological suffering. And the effects of that cause are the anxiety, the stress, the fear, the guilt, the jealousy, the envy. Cause and effect, that's what they call karma. But if I ask myself, can there be effect if I'm not relating to the cause? Well, it can't be. And me is the cause, I'm not see the me as a fiction. What must happen to the effect? So I got rid of it all without the constant conflict going on. And that constant conflict is like the clouds on the sun. Clouds will cover the sun over and the sun's not shining forth, but we know the sun never leaves the sky. When you ask what forms the clouds, you'll realise the sun itself forms the cloud. It doesn't know anything about the clouds, but it shines in its radiance and evaporates water. The water rises and condenses and forms a cloud over it. And then it'll cool down or be blown away by the wind, and there's more clarity there, more warmth, more affection. Well, the same here. Thoughts come up and obscure our spontaneous natural state. like clouds. When we recognise and don't attach to the thinking, leave it as it is, then there's more clarity there. Then there's more warmth, more affection, more compassion. Those there are able to shine forth in their fullness. And it innately knows what to do with itself. As they call it, it's the inner teacher.
And it doesn't mean that we have to suppress the thinking, because again, there is no you to suppress the thinking. People, and I know, especially in Bob's room, we have usually a handful of people coming from the 12-step background. And the reason why would they need for the alcohol or drug or any other way, shopping, food, to sedate themselves was thinking. Was the thinking. That was terrible terror in the head. So anything to distract. And that didn't work. That put them in a position which was worse than the original. So what Bob is pointing out is the thinking is not the problem. The attachment to the thinking and the energy of belief fueling the thinking, the focusing on the thinking, the finding that thinking important and relating that thinking to the imagined self. Because as he says, the sky doesn't mind the clouds. Sky doesn't do anything about them. Sky is there. The sky-like awareness or space-like awareness is there. Whether the thoughts or clouds are moving through or they not, it doesn't really matter. But it really is kind of taking the attention away, bringing it to the heart of hearts, bringing it to that preciousness of existence, that delight of existence, that subtle joy of being, rather than scattering it around on different thoughts and stories. Of course, when it is necessary for functioning or for survival, that attention will go, just like with a little baby. The attention goes to crying or laughing or urinating or breathing. That's that intelligence is the body. It is the energy creating the matter or expressing as the matter, expressing as the crying of the matter, as everything. Nothing's not it.
That's why there's no problem with the body or with thought or with imagination. It's all this wondrous expression of that intelligence. The only apparent problem, and it is an apparent problem, it's not a true problem, it's this excessive focus and therefore this tension, this contraction around any of these things. That's the pain, that's the suffering, that's the limitation. Wherever you believe you are located in this body-mind, there is tension there. So that's really revealing. How can it be that the I that I believe I am is this bundle of tension? Well, it's because there's excessive attention there. The problem is believing that I am only exclusively that, when actually I am all of this. So then the body can be just as it is, thought can be just as it is, this little me can be just as it is. I just know that I'm not limited that way.
Yes, there's no boundaries, no limitations on it whatsoever.
Yeah, like space, no center, no circumference, like you pointed initially.
Absolute.
Yeah. And then there is no location, really. And if there is no location, that sort of defocused, relaxed, open field of knowing, all enveloping, resisting nothing, is just like the one thing that I really, really enjoy about the joy and the bliss of being is that sort of open field of curious awareness, which is kind of amazed and interested in everything that is presented itself in that field. Whether it is a painful sensation or whether it is uncomfortable sensation, or is it pleasant sensation, or is it even an emotion which habitually comes with a label like sadness or fear. It doesn't really matter. This is all what is automatically boiling out of that open field, and it is there to be appreciated and to be delighted in.
Yeah.
And that's the freedom, and that's the freedom for no one, because that open field, the open field is already open and is already free. And it is really relaxing out of any position taken within that field, back to the nothing. Relaxing out of the idea of being separate or being me or being anything at all, into that pure potentiality. And in that potentiality, the body still functions just as it did in a womb, just as always, and it defends itself. It runs if it's required. It is that whole biocomputer is so brilliantly tuned for survival, which for me is another phase of loving to be, really. It loves to be.
Nisargadatta said that this I amness is infatuated with itself. It's this inherent love to exist, love to be, and it just can't stop perpetuating itself, recreating itself, giving birth to itself in infinite ways. It gave birth to all of this, and it has no problem with what it gives birth to. The only problem is this thought that it should be different. It shouldn't be like this. And you know what? Even that is not a problem to the intelligence.
No.
When it's seen for what it is, it can't be.
And even if there is like alleged entity trapped in that psychological suffering, it brings up the tons of self-pity or the compassion or the misery. Even that is part of the beauty of life. And this is not to say heartlessly, because when I'm presented with that suffering, be it an animal, be it physical pain, or be it a human in any position of fear or anxiety, that is my suffering.
Yeah.
That is me. This is a reflection of what I am, of who I am. And my heart explodes in embracing every aspect of it. And there is a subtle delight in being capable of feeling and crying and experiencing it to the point of oblivion.
That one loves to express as many. There's no issue there.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what's wrong with right now? What's wrong with right now if you don't think about it? And you can't say it's good, bad, and pleasant, painful without a thought. But you haven't disappeared. It's not the end of you. So you're still, that life is still there without the thought.
And without thinking, it's just what's happening, just the seeing, and everything that's reflected in the seeing is inseparable from the seeing. So yes, as you say, that is no we. There is just one reflected, dancing its dance, reflecting in a holographic universe, in every single particle.
Ramana Maharshi said, whatever is there in the whole is also there in the parts too. What is there in the universe is also there in the atom. The soul is as vast as the universe. It is smaller than an atom too. Once we understand this, then we can feel as vast as the universe and as small as an atom. So it is one without a second, but it's also the one within the second. And so the second is only that one expressed as the second. So therefore, there's no second.
No. And the whole 10,000 things, as they call it, they only that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smaller than the smallest, larger than the largest. From Brahma to a crop of grass. The one self appearing and expressing as everything.
Seemingly so. Because that's the emptiness showing up as a form. That's the Namarupa, the name and form, which is Maya. The Satchitananda is reality and Namarupa is Maya. The essence is real and the appearance is illusory.
Yeah. that means everything is real in its essence. There's nothing that isn't real. It's just that the names applied to those things are not real, and therefore there are no things. There's only the real.
Yeah.
Everything is no thing, and the no thing is everything. Yeah.
Yeah, real in its essence, but not how it is computed by that computer here and interpreted and labeled and related. Not how it appears. It's like my first teacher was saying, why is that universe so creative and it shows itself in so many different ways and phases? And he says, well, that's what they call God, a creator, because it is creative. It is the infinite creativity, the capacity for the creation.
And that's what Maya means. Maya means magic. So it's the creative magic show of that one reality. So Maya is just the medium with which the one is expressed. It's not something to get rid of.
Yes, I resonate with what you say.
Yeah, resonating, recognizing, reflected, and relaxed.
And that resonance is the inner voice, recognising itself. It's recognising emptiness, but it needs to be recognised.
Resonating with what's already known, what's already here, and there is no one, there is no expression, there is no pattern, shape or form which would not have that innate quality of being.
Therefore, there are no 10,000 things. But that doesn't mean that there's not the appearance of the 10,000 things. There's definitely the appearance.
If anything, you just love her with all of your heart, like you love the rainbow on the sky and you love a beautiful mirage. And in my intuition, the appearance of 10,000 things has one reason for existence: appreciation and love. From that point of freedom.
Totally. That apparition is the appreciation. That's it. It is for the purpose of love, the purpose of self-knowing, self-expressing. Why? Well, maybe there is no why. Maybe there is no why. But there is the isness of it.
Yes. Yes, or Satchitananda, joy of being, love of being. Expression is just love of being, and it's lovely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Love you.
Lots of love. Thank you.